Confidence is not something that magically appears one day when everything in your life lines up. It's not a talent, not a gift, not even a personality trait. Confidence is a construction, something you build layer by layer through the small, intentional choices you make every day. And at the foundation of that construction lies one simple truth: self-respect. Without it, confidence collapses the moment it's challenged. With it, confidence stands even when the world shakes around you. Self-respect begins with how you treat yourself when no one's watching. It's the quiet decision to hold yourself to a standard, not out of pressure, but out of pride. When you wake up in the morning and follow through on the promises you made to yourself, no matter how small, you're telling your mind, "I can trust me." That trust is the first spark of real confidence. It doesn't shout. It doesn't need to. It simply exists steady and certain. Too often we confuse confidence with validation. We chase applause, approval, and attention, thinking they'll fill the space where self-belief should lie. But validation is like sugar. It gives you a rush and then leaves you empty. Respect, on the other hand, is nourishment. It's what keeps your sense of worth alive long after the spotlight fades. The people who seem effortlessly confident aren't necessarily louder or more talented. They've simply decided to respect themselves regardless of who notices. Respecting yourself also means accepting imperfection. Confidence doesn't come from pretending to have it all together. It comes from knowing that even when you don't, you're still enough. It's the calm that says, "I can fail and still have value." That kind of respect turns mistakes into lessons and rejection into redirection. It's not arrogance, it's ownership of your flaws, your growth, your humanity. Think about how you treat someone you admire. You listen to them, encourage them, forgive their mistakes, and celebrate their wins. Now imagine giving yourself that same level of grace. That's self-respect in action. And when you practice it, you begin to move through the world differently. You stop walking into rooms hoping people will like you and start walking in to see if the room deserves your energy. Confidence built on self-respect isn't loud, it's grounded. It doesn't need to prove, compare, or compete. It shows up ready to contribute, ready to learn. When you respect yourself, your presence becomes enough, not because you're perfect, but because you're present, aware, and aligned with who you are. That kind of confidence doesn't crumble under pressure. It expands in it. Every time you keep your word to yourself, you reinforce that foundation. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, honesty over appearance, or rest over burnout, you're sending a signal: I matter. Those small, unseen choices are what make confidence unshakable. They're the bricks of self-respect that no compliment or criticism can remove. Confidence doesn't begin the moment people see your value. It begins the moment you do. When you treat yourself with the respect you expect from others, in your words, your habits, your boundaries, you stop performing confidence and start embodying it. It's not about standing taller than others. It's about standing tall within yourself. The conversations you have with yourself shape every decision, every emotion, and every direction your life takes. Long before the world responds to you, you've already told yourself what you believe you deserve. The tone of your inner voice becomes the rhythm of your life. It decides whether you rise or retreat, whether you act with courage or stay silent in fear. The truth is, no one speaks to you more than you speak to yourself, and that voice becomes the soundtrack of your confidence, your relationships, and your destiny. When that internal dialogue is harsh or critical, it doesn't just hurt your feelings, it limits your potential. You can't build a powerful life on a foundation of self-attack. Every time you tell yourself you're not enough, you reinforce a belief that makes progress harder. Yet when your inner voice is compassionate and encouraging, it gives you permission to try, to fail, to grow. The way you talk to yourself is not about being unrealistically positive. It's about being fair, honest, and respectful with the person you're becoming. Internal dialogue is leadership in its purest form. Leadership isn't about managing others first. It's about managing your own thoughts, emotions, and responses. When you catch your mind spiraling into fear or doubt, and you guide it back toward reason, patience, or possibility, you're leading yourself. You're showing discipline in the unseen spaces of your life. And that self-leadership becomes the foundation others eventually trust and follow. Imagine the difference between a leader who constantly criticizes their team and one who inspires them. Your inner voice plays that same role for you. If it tears you down, you'll hesitate, second guess, and shrink. If it supports you even when you stumble, you'll find the strength to keep moving. The relationship you build with yourself sets the standard for every other relationship you'll ever have. You can't expect kindness, respect, or trust from others if you don't practice it within. Learning to lead yourself through self-talk means paying attention to what your mind says when things go wrong. Do you instantly attack yourself, or do you take a breath and ask, what can I learn here? One response creates fear, the other builds wisdom. The words you choose in those quiet moments can either drain your energy or ignite it. They can make a challenge feel like a threat or an opportunity. You get to decide which narrative becomes your truth. You don't have to silence every negative thought. That's not realistic. What matters is the balance of voices you allow to dominate. Confidence doesn't come from never doubting yourself. It comes from speaking to yourself with enough respect to keep going even when you do. Every gentle reminder, every patient word, every time you forgive yourself instead of attack yourself, you are practicing internal leadership that strengthens your resilience. When you begin to speak to yourself with the same tone you'd use for someone you care about, everything starts to change. Your posture shifts, your energy stabilizes, and your choices become more aligned with who you truly are. You stop reacting to fear and start responding with intention. You begin to move from self-criticism to self-coaching, from judgment to guidance, from insecurity to clarity. That shift is where inner strength begins. The way you talk to yourself determines how far you'll allow yourself to go. It dictates what you try, how you recover, and whether you see failure as final or formative. Every word carries power, to build, to break, or to believe. When you take ownership of that power, you begin to lead yourself toward the life you were meant to live, one conversation at a time. Respect is not something you wait to receive once you've achieved enough, proven enough, or impressed enough. It's a decision you make long before the world acknowledges you. Most people believe respect is a result of success, that once you reach a certain point, you'll finally feel worthy. But the truth is, self-respect is what allows you to reach that point in the first place. It's the quiet inner commitment to treat yourself with dignity, even when the evidence of success hasn't arrived yet. When you choose to respect yourself before you have the results, you're planting the seed of resilience. It's easy to respect yourself when things are going well, when you're winning, when others approve, when the path feels smooth. The real test comes when you're uncertain, when no one notices your effort, when you fail and have to face yourself in the mirror. Respect in those moments isn't about pride, it's about loyalty to your own humanity. It's the decision to stay kind, grounded, and patient with yourself even when the world isn't. Self-respect before success is what builds emotional stability. It allows you to celebrate wins without arrogance and endure losses without collapse. When your sense of worth doesn't depend on the outcome, you can handle both victory and failure with balance. Success becomes something you experience, not something that defines you. Failure becomes feedback, not proof of inadequacy. This internal steadiness is what separates confidence from ego. One needs validation, the other doesn't. Every choice you make reflects how much you respect yourself. The way you speak to yourself, the standards you uphold, the boundaries you enforce, these are all expressions of self-respect. It's not about being perfect, it's about being principled. Respect means doing what's right for you, not what's easiest or most popular. It's saying no when yes would betray your values. It's walking away from what diminishes you, even if it costs you approval. When you make respect a daily decision, it changes how you approach your goals. You stop chasing success to prove your worth and start pursuing it to express your worth. That shift removes desperation and replaces it with purpose. You no longer need every achievement to validate your identity. Instead, each achievement becomes a reflection of the identity you've already claimed. Success built on self-respect feels lighter because it's not driven by fear of inadequacy. It's guided by belief in your value. Respecting yourself before success also helps you build consistency. You keep your promises because they mean something to you, not because someone is watching. You show up not out of obligation, but out of integrity. When you make respect non-negotiable, discipline follows naturally. You no longer rely on motivation to act. Your actions flow from the standard you've set for yourself. That's how character is built, through quiet moments of self-respect repeated again and again. There's a difference between waiting to feel worthy and choosing to be worthy now. The first makes your confidence conditional. The second makes it unshakable. When you decide to respect yourself before the results, you give yourself permission to grow without shame. You allow yourself to learn, stumble, and evolve while still believing you're deserving of kindness and effort. That's what keeps you going when success takes longer than expected. Self-respect is not a prize you win at the end of the race. It's the reason you keep running. It's the voice that says, I am enough to begin. When you lead with that mindset, both success and failure become opportunities, not verdicts. You stop asking the world to prove your value because you've already decided what you're worth, and that decision is what makes everything else possible. Boundaries are not walls meant to keep people out. They are bridges that define how you want to be treated and how you choose to engage with the world. They communicate your values without you having to explain them over and over again. When you set boundaries, you are not being selfish. You are being self-aware. You are acknowledging that your time, energy, and emotions have worth, and that worth deserves protection. Boundaries are not about control, they are about clarity, a way of saying, this is where I end and where someone else begins. Saying no is often misunderstood as rejection, but in truth, it's one of the most powerful forms of self-respect. Every time you say no to something that doesn't align with your values, you are saying yes to your peace, your purpose, and your priorities. It takes courage to disappoint others in order to stay true to yourself. It's easy to say yes, to please, to avoid conflict, to be liked. But confidence grows in the moments you choose integrity over approval, knowing that peace is better than popularity, The absence of boundaries invites chaos. When you constantly say yes to everyone and everything, your energy becomes scattered, your focus fades, and resentment quietly takes root. You begin to feel invisible in your own life because you've given away all your space to others. Boundaries restore that space. They remind you that your capacity is not infinite and that it's your responsibility to protect it. Setting limits doesn't make you hard to love, it makes you easier to respect. Boundaries also redefine how others see you. People learn how to treat you based on what you allow. When you consistently tolerate behavior that drains or disrespects you, you teach others that it's acceptable. But when you clearly communicate your limits and stand by them, you teach people that your kindness has depth, not weakness. True confidence isn't about being available to everyone. It's about being authentic with the right ones. Boundaries filter out what's harmful so that what's healthy can flourish. Learning to set boundaries begins with recognizing your own patterns. Do you overcommit because you fear letting people down? Do you avoid confrontation because you equate it with conflict? Boundaries require honesty. Not with others first, but with yourself. You have to admit what drains you, what excites you, and what aligns with your growth. From there, every no becomes an act of protection, and every yes becomes an act of intention. Saying no when it matters most isn't about closing doors, it's about choosing the right ones to walk through. It's about creating a life filled with meaning instead of noise. That kind of clarity gives you strength. It allows you to focus your energy on what truly matters, your purpose, your relationships, your peace of mind. You begin to realize that you don't owe everyone access to you. Access is earned through respect and reciprocity. Boundaries also nurture your self-trust. Every time you keep one, you reinforce the belief that your needs matter. You start to feel safer within your own life because you're no longer betraying yourself to please others. This safety is what makes confidence sustainable. You are no longer performing strength, you're living it. You know your limits and you honor them without apology. That quiet assurance becomes visible to others not through words, but through the way you carry yourself. The ability to say no is not the rejection of others, it is the affirmation of yourself. It is a declaration that your time, your energy, and your well-being are not negotiable. Boundaries are how self-respect becomes visible, not through grand gestures, but through the small, consistent choices that protect your peace and preserve your power. Comparison is a silent thief. It doesn't announce itself loudly. It creeps in quietly, whispering that someone else's path, pace, or progress is somehow better than your own. It turns what should be inspiration into insecurity. The moment you start measuring your worth by someone else's success, you lose sight of your own value. Comparison shifts your focus from growth to judgment, from purpose to performance. And what makes it so dangerous is that it disguises itself as motivation, when in truth it's self-doubt in disguise. When you constantly compare, you build your identity on unstable ground. Because no matter how much you achieve, there will always be someone with more experience, more recognition, more opportunities. If your worth depends on being ahead of others, you'll never feel enough. Self-respect, however, is rooted in consistency, not comparison. It says, I'm proud of who I am becoming, regardless of where anyone else is. The moment you stop competing with others and start competing with your past self, peace begins to return. Comparison robs you of gratitude. It blinds you to how far you've come because you're too busy staring at where someone else is. You forget that their journey has different challenges, different timing, and different lessons. You start treating life like a scoreboard instead of a story. Self-respect, on the other hand, invites gratitude back into the equation. It reminds you that your journey is not meant to look like anyone else's. It's meant to reflect who you are and what you're learning along the way. The truth is, comparison often grows from insecurity, not ambition. It's not that you want what others have, it's that you've stopped seeing the value in what you already possess. When you respect yourself, you recognize that your strengths, flaws, and experiences are uniquely yours. You don't need to copy someone else's formula for success because your story is your advantage. What others can do may inspire you, but it should never define you. Every time you measure your worth against someone else, you hand over your power. You give them control over your self-image, even though they probably aren't aware of it. You start to shape your life based on their highlight reel rather than your own truth. Self-respect is about reclaiming that power. It's reminding yourself that worth isn't a race to be won. It's a reality to be accepted. Confidence doesn't grow from comparison, it grows from alignment with your own values. Comparison also distorts your perception of progress. When you're focused on others, you start to move for the wrong reasons. To prove instead of to grow, to impress instead of to improve. That kind of striving exhausts you. But when you respect yourself, progress becomes personal. You begin to measure success by how authentic, consistent, and fulfilled you feel, not by how you stack up against others. This internal measure is where true confidence is born. Letting go of comparison doesn't mean ignoring others' success. It means appreciating it without devaluing yourself. You can admire someone's journey while staying anchored in your own. Respecting yourself means believing there's enough space for everyone to grow, that someone else's light doesn't dim yours. When you operate from that mindset, collaboration replaces competition and joy replaces jealousy. Comparison ends where self-acceptance begins. The more you respect yourself, the less you need external validation to feel worthy. You stop chasing someone else's definition of success and start living by your own. You realize that no one else's timeline can replace your own path, and that the only person you ever need to be better than is who you were yesterday. Confidence doesn't come from titles, wealth, or recognition. It comes from knowing that who you are on the inside matches what you show on the outside. Integrity is the invisible thread that holds confidence together. When your actions reflect your values, you stop living in conflict with yourself. You don't need to perform, to impress, or to hide, because you are at peace with your own reflection. Integrity doesn't shout for attention, it builds quiet certainty. It's the strength that comes from being consistent in your principles, even when it's inconvenient or unseen. True confidence isn't born in the spotlight, it's built in the moments when no one is watching. It's in the small choices, the ones you could easily justify ignoring, where your integrity is tested. Do you follow through on promises that no one will notice? Do you do what's right when it costs you comfort? Those decisions define the kind of confidence that can't be shaken. Because when you know you've stayed true to yourself, you don't need the world's validation, your own approval is enough. Integrity gives your confidence roots. Without it, confidence becomes fragile, a performance that depends on other people's opinions. But when you act with integrity, you create a foundation of trust within yourself. You know that your words mean something. You know that your intentions are pure. You know that your effort is real. That self-trust becomes the anchor that holds you steady when life tests you. Confidence without integrity is arrogance. Confidence with integrity is strength. The alignment between values and actions creates internal harmony. When what you believe, say, and do are in sync, your energy becomes clear and focused. You waste no time pretending, no effort maintaining facades. Integrity simplifies your life because it removes the burden of contradiction. You don't have to remember who you pretended to be. You only need to show up as who you are. And in that authenticity, confidence naturally grows. Because truth is lighter to carry than pretense. Integrity also builds respect, not just from others, but from yourself. Every time you make a choice that aligns with your principles, you prove to yourself that your values are real. You strengthen your inner voice. You learn that integrity isn't about perfection, it's about consistency. It's about returning to what's right even when you've fallen short. That humility keeps confidence grounded. You don't need to be flawless to be confident. You just need to be honest. In moments of temptation, integrity becomes a mirror. It asks you who you want to be when comfort collides with conviction. These are the moments where character is built, when you decide to honor your standards not because it's easy, but because it's right. Confidence grows from those choices. It's not the feeling you get after the reward. It's the calm assurance that comes from knowing you didn't compromise what matters most. When your actions align with your values, you become trustworthy, first to yourself, then to others. You start to walk differently, speak differently, and lead differently. People can sense it. They may not always agree with you, but they will respect you because integrity radiates authenticity. That authenticity draws others in, not through charm, but through truth. Confidence rooted in integrity inspires confidence in others. Integrity is the quiet space between what you say and what you do. It's where confidence takes shape, not through perfection, but through congruence. Every time you act according to your values, you strengthen the bridge between intention and action. You begin to stand taller, not because you are trying to appear strong, but because you have nothing left to hide. Confidence is often misunderstood as something you can put on, a tone, a posture, a style, a mask. But true confidence can't be faked, because it's not about appearance, it's about alignment. It comes from the deep, internal knowing that you're worthy, capable, and enough regardless of circumstances. And that kind of confidence doesn't appear overnight. It grows through the practice of self-respect, the daily, deliberate decision to treat yourself with the same kindness and value you offer others. Self-respect is the training ground for confidence. It's built in the quiet moments when you choose to keep your word, to show up, to set boundaries, and to forgive yourself for being human. Every act of self-respect sends a signal to your mind that you are dependable, that you can be trusted to do right by yourself. Over time, this trust becomes the foundation for real confidence. You stop needing to prove your worth and start expressing it naturally through your actions and presence. Practicing respect means honoring your time, your energy, and your limits. It's recognizing that your well-being matters as much as your goals. When you respect yourself, you stop chasing validation and start seeking alignment. You stop saying yes to things that drain you and start saying yes to what strengthens you. This discipline may feel uncomfortable at first, but it's the discomfort that shapes growth. With each respectful choice, you reinforce the message that you are enough, not because someone said so, but because you've decided to be. You can't fake the feeling of self-respect. You can dress it up, perform confidence for a moment, or speak words that sound strong, but without genuine respect for yourself, it all feels hollow. Real confidence doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need an audience. It's quiet because it's secure. It's steady because it's earned. You begin to realize that the way you treat yourself when no one's looking is the truest reflection of how deeply you believe in your own worth. Over time, consistent self-respect creates an internal stability that no external circumstance can shake. You become less reactive to judgment, less fearful of rejection, less desperate for approval. The world no longer defines your value. You do. This inner steadiness becomes visible to others not through arrogance, but through calm assurance. You don't need to declare your confidence. It's evident in the way you carry yourself, in the choices you make, and in the peace that surrounds you. Practicing self-respect also builds emotional resilience. When you inevitably face setbacks or failure, you don't crumble under pressure because your sense of worth isn't tied to outcomes. You can fail and still respect yourself, stumble and still stand tall. That respect allows you to learn instead of shame yourself, to adjust instead of retreat. Confidence isn't about being untouched by failure. It's about being unbroken by it because you've learned to value yourself through every season. The beauty of practicing respect is that it doesn't require perfection. Only consistency. Each small act compounds over time, shaping how you see yourself and how others see you. You start to speak differently, walk differently, decide differently. You stop performing for approval and start living from authenticity. Respect becomes your habit and confidence becomes your natural state. Quiet, unshakable confidence isn't something you chase, it's something you build. It's the byproduct of 1,000 small moments where you chose respect over doubt, discipline over distraction, and truth over pretense. It's the reward of showing up for yourself again and again until belief becomes second nature. Confidence is not a declaration of superiority, it's a quiet acceptance of self. It doesn't come from comparing, competing, or convincing others of your worth. It comes from the understanding that you don't need to be better than anyone to have value. Confidence rooted in respect says, I am enough as I am, and that is where my strength begins. It's not arrogance, it's assurance. It's not loud, it's grounded. When you embrace who you are without needing to justify it, you create space for authenticity to lead the way. The moment you start seeing confidence as a comparison, you lose the essence of it. True confidence isn't about standing taller than others. It's about standing fully within yourself. It's about knowing that your worth isn't measured against someone else's. When you respect who you are, you stop seeking permission to exist. You stop asking for validation to take up space. You begin to move through life with ease because your sense of worth no longer depends on external approval. Confidence built on respect carries a calm energy. It doesn't rush to prove or persuade, it simply is. You can feel it in people who are comfortable in their own skin. Their presence doesn't demand attention, yet it naturally commands it. They listen without defensiveness, speak without arrogance, and act without insecurity. That kind of presence comes from deep self-respect, from years of choosing self-acceptance over self-judgment, of letting go of the need to perform. When you know you are enough, you don't shrink to make others comfortable, nor do you overcompensate to feel significant. You begin to live in balance, humble enough to learn, yet strong enough to stand firm in your beliefs. Confidence rooted in respect allows you to celebrate others without feeling threatened. It frees you from the exhausting cycle of comparison because you understand that everyone's path is different, and that difference doesn't diminish your own. Respecting who you are also means accepting the parts of yourself that are still growing. It's not about pretending to be flawless, it's about embracing progress. When you respect your journey, the mistakes, the lessons, the healing, you carry a sense of peace that can't be faked. People who respect themselves don't hide their imperfections, they learn from them. Their confidence comes not from what they've mastered, but from how they've continued to evolve. Confidence is the reflection of self-trust. When you respect yourself, you trust your voice, your instincts, your timing. You stop needing to prove your worth through constant action. You can pause, rest, and reflect without feeling like you're falling behind. That trust transforms how you move through challenges. Instead of reacting from fear, you respond from stability. You're not trying to be seen as capable, you simply know that you are. Your presence begins to speak louder than your words when it's rooted in respect. People feel the steadiness that comes from authenticity. You no longer have to declare your confidence. It radiates naturally through your calm, your choices, your energy. The need to prove disappears because you've already made peace with who you are. You've learned that being enough doesn't mean being perfect, it means being whole. Confidence that comes from respect doesn't fluctuate with praise or criticism. It's anchored in self-awareness, not ego. You don't seek to outshine others, you seek to align with yourself. You stop performing and start being. And in that quiet, assured being, you discover a kind of power that needs no explanation. Because when you truly respect who you are, the world begins to too.